I go to my mother's dinners 4 times a year. Not because I look forward to them, and not because I dread them enough to stop. I go because my grandmother is usually there, and she is 83, and I am aware, in a way I wasn't 10 years ago, that the number of times I'll sit across a table from her is not an unlimited figure. That's the honest reason. Everything else is just maintenance. Derek brought his family, he always does. His wife Paula, and their 3 kids, the youngest of whom is 11, and still at the age where family dinners are just background noise to whatever's on his phone. The older 2 are teenagers. Megan is 16, and has recently developed the particular confidence of someone who has discovered that saying true things cruelly passes for wit in certain rooms. I've watched it develop over the past year or so. I hadn't decided what to do about it. The dinner was unremarkable for its first hour. My mother made the pasta she makes for these occasions. My grandmother ate slowly and asked me questions about my work with genuine interest, the way she always has. Derek talked about a renovation project. Paula refilled her wine glass and said little. Then there was a lull, the kind that happens at family tables when one conversation ends and the next hasn't started. And Megan said it into the space. She thinks she's special because she's childless and rich. Not to me directly, gestured in my direction, addressed to the table, delivered in the breezy tone of someone repeating something they'd heard and were now field testing. Something they'd heard at home, I understood immediately, in the easy private language of a family talking about another family member. My mother laughed. Not a polite laugh, not an uncomfortable one. A real laugh, full and bright, the kind that means yes, exactly, someone finally said it. Derek smiled at his plate. Paula looked at her plate differently. I finished what was in my glass. I said goodbye in order around the table. Derek, Paula, the kids, my mother. When I got to my grandmother, I kissed her cheek and held her hand for a moment, and she looked at my face the way she has always looked at my face. Like she could read the parts I wasn't showing. She didn't say anything. Neither did I. It was the most honest exchange of the evening. I want to be precise about the drive home because I've thought about it since, and I think precision matters here. I wasn't crying. I was surprised to notice I wasn't particularly angry either. Anger would have felt cleaner. Something to move through and set down. What I felt was more like the release of a tension I hadn't consciously been holding. Like discovering you've been bracing for an impact that has now, finally, arrived. I thought about the accounts. I'd set them up 6 years ago, one for each of Derek's kids, named them as beneficiaries, funded them quarterly, automatically, in amounts I'd calibrated to be meaningful, without being something I needed to think about. I never mentioned it at dinners, as I never used it in arguments. It was just a thing I did because I believed in the idea of it, because I didn't need the money for anything else, because I suppose I thought it meant something about who I was in relation to this family. Megan's comment clarified what it meant to them. Or at least what I meant to them. The accounts were in my name. I had established them. The kids were beneficiaries, but I was the account holder. This is a relevant distinction. I called the financial institution when it opened. The representative walked me through the process without asking why, which I appreciated. I redirected the funds into an account in my own name. It took 20 minutes. I thanked her and made coffee. Derek called at 11. He'd logged into a college planning portal. One of the kids had an appointment. He was checking a balance. He was confused before he was angry, which I found harder to listen to than anger would have been. I told him the accounts were in my name, that I'd made a decision about my own finances, that I hoped they'd find a workable path forward for the kids' education. He said I was punishing children for something a teenager said at dinner. I said I was making a decision about money that belonged to me. The line went quiet. I didn't fill it. He didn't either. We hung up without resolution, which is its own kind of answer. My grandmother called 3 days later. She didn't mention dinner. She asked about my work, told me about a book she was reading, said she loved me and that I had a good head on my shoulders. I told her I loved her too. After we hung up, I sat with it. The whole of it, the legality of what I did, which is not in question. The logic of it, which I can construct clearly, and also the 3 kids who said nothing at that table. And are now without something I'd spent 6 years building for them. I hold all of it at once and I don't resolve it. I'm not sure it's the kind of thing that resolves. I'm not sure I should want it to.